I rely on my computer a lot for songwriting, and today I'm going to show you how to set up a digital audio workstation, or DAW, or DAW, for making music. So here we go.
Okay, welcome to the inside of my digital audio workstation. We are looking at Logic Pro 10. Different DAWs have different interfaces. They share some things in common. Usually you will have tracks, different tracks over here that play out across a timeline. Okay. And there are usually ways to control the volume. I can control the volume of these tracks either from here or from down here. Otherwise, don't get too overwhelmed by all the crazy buttons. You do not need to use most of these buttons. We're going to keep it really simple for you. Some DAWs are simpler than others. Logic is a professional level one, and so you can do a lot on here, but you can still keep it simple at the same time. Okay, so as far as setting it up, you are going to want to have at least one track. Now, I've got two on here, but you would want to have it. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this audio track. You need at least one track. That is where you are going to record your melody. If you have an idea for a melody, this is where it's going to go. Okay, I will usually have a second track. In fact, well, before we go on, let me name this. This is important. Name your tracks so you know what is what. This is going to be my melody track. Now I'm going to add another track. And what do you think that's going to be for? Let me choose a software instrument. This is going to be for my chords. Okay. You're going to want to mess with your chords while you're messing with your melody. Probably. You don't have to, but I tend to every now and then, and when I'm working out a melody, I get an idea, but it's going to call for a different chord. So I'll go down and I'll change the chord that goes with it. So I would say these are the two minimal tracks that you need. You do have one other option, and that is if you don't want to play with the chords as far as messing around with them, and you are a guitarist or some other kind of acoustic instrumentalist, you may want to just record that instrument playing on a track, in which case you might have an audio track down here, and that might be for your guitar. Okay, and then you'd go in and you would record that guitar, and then you would write your melody up here. Now, I am not going to be playing a guitar, and so I'm going to take this off. We're going to add an audio track back in just a minute, but for now I want to focus on these. Okay, for the melody, as you play notes, you're going to be hearing that melody played back to you. What instrument should you choose to play the melody back? Now, that is totally going to be up to you, a matter of taste. I'm going to tell you what I choose, and I'm going to tell you why. I choose a built-in instrument that Logic has, the vintage clav. And it's not a pretty sounding instrument. Okay? And it certainly does not sound like a voice. And you're thinking to yourself, why in the world do you want that to play back the melody? Well, for one, it's hard to find instruments that really sound like a voice. They can be kind of weird. But the reason I choose the clavichord, the clav, is because every note, even if I hold them all down, the notes are distinct. I can hear when the note changes. That's really important when you're crafting a melody. You want to be able to hear those changes. You want to hear the intervals. You want to be able to hear something that's capable of going low, something that's capable of going high, and playing in the middle. It sounds fine across the entire range. And so it's diverse in that way. It's very clear. The other reason I choose it is because even though I can, hear all the notes, it also sustains well. So that works well with my voice. I can't hold out a note forever, and I don't typically hold out a note much longer than that anyway, so that works great for me. So clavichord. One thing that I might add to it sometimes, I don't always do this. Well, actually, no, I pretty much always do this, but you don't have to, is if you have a way of inserting effects on these instruments, it's nice to insert some reverb. It just makes the note sustain a little bit longer. And when you're doing, let me find one of my reverbs here. Where is it? Here we go. 40. Turn up the volume. Oh, no. You don't want it to be wet. You want to be able to control it. It just kind of helps with the sustain a little bit to have a little bit of reverb on it. You could also use a little delay, but you do not want to overdo it. You don't want it starting to sound muddy. Another reason the reverb is good is when you add the other instruments, it sort of gives the melody a sense of space, of fitting in with the song. So adding a little bit of reverb is a good idea. You don't have to, though. All right, let's jump down here to the chords. All right, for the chords, when you're writing chords for a song, you may play, funky, but you don't need to do that for the chords you're writing. You're just trying to ask yourself what chords are playing across this measure or whatever. For that, you need an instrument that will sustain. I usually choose another built-in instrument that's built into Logic, the electric piano. And I don't mess with different settings or anything like that. That's what it looks like. I just leave it the way it is. And here's the reason why I like this. I can play a chord and it sustains. It'll sustain across an entire measure. Maybe even 2 measures. Okay. But I can hear every note of that chord. They don't get muddied together. It's very clear. If I wanted to throw in, a major 7th in there, I can hear that major 7th. If I want to change this to a minor chord, it's very clear. And so this is a good instrument for arranging the chords. Now you can choose anything you want. You could choose strings, whatever you want. If you happen to know the kind of instrument that's going to be backing you up in the song and you want to choose that instrument, that's absolutely fine. I like to keep it open so that my mind can go anywhere. I don't want to be distracted by these instruments that I'm using to map out the melody and the chords. I just want to think notes. What are the notes? And these 2 instruments help me with keeping my palette clear for creativity. So that's what I go with for my melody and chords. A couple of things to point out too is when you go to enter these in, you could just record and start playing. If I go up here for the melody, I can just hit record. And there you go. That's one way to enter it in. Or you could create an empty region here. I created it on the wrong side. There we go. There it is. And bring it up down here, and we're going to talk about this piano roll editor another time. You can draw your notes in. And so decide how long they're going to be, move them up and down, and you play it back. You got your, there you go. You can draw your notes in. So there's a couple different ways to do that. If you are going to be playing your notes in live, though, you're going to want to know what the beat is. You're going to want to know where your metronome is. For me, it's up here. And so when I'm going to record, let me get rid of this. Delete. Go back. When I hit record, you will hear the metronome playing. Okay? And then when you decide to play, there you go. But you can turn that off too. And but it's good to know where that is. The other thing is know where to control your tempo, because if you're going to be recording it live at all, you're going to want to play in time. But also you can adjust how fast your song is. And so for me, I can drag the tempo up and down up here, and that will change even after I play the notes. That will change. Listen to I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Go to record. Okay, so what's nice about doing this in a DAW is I recorded that at 110. But if I decide later to play it a lot faster, the song will sound better faster, I can control that. So know where your tempo is. All right, the last track that I would add on here is an audio track. Okay, now this is not the same audio track that if you recorded your guitar as the background. This is different. At some point, as you play with your melody, you might want to hear what it sounds like with someone singing it. So you work with your melody, you get it sounding the way you think it might be good, and you mute that. You go down here and you record yourself singing that melody along with the chords, and you can get an idea of how it sounds. And you can create as many tracks as you want. In fact, you can do the same thing with the melody. You can just, add more tracks. Do this and say, oh, melody, get out of there. You can say melody 2. And you can have as many ideas as you want, and you can just mute the ones that you don't want to hear. And you can do the same thing with the audio. You can record yourself singing the different versions of that melody. Okay. All right. So that is a wrap up of how to set up your DAW for writing melodies and chords for music. We're going to go into a lot more detail about actually doing this and what it's like, and exploring the creative side of this in other videos. But I did want to have one good solid video showing you how to get it set up. All right, talk to you later.